Hi, I'm Dr. Bill Gradishar, Professor of Medicine at Northwestern University, and I want to welcome you to this Yerba YouTube video that's going to focus on one of the key trials that was presented at our national meeting that just finished a couple of days ago, the American Society of Clinical Oncology. And before we get into it, because I'm going to really be focusing on hormone-sensitive breast cancer for this discussion, as you know from previous videos you may have watched, we categorize breast cancer very broadly based on the presence or absence of hormone receptors, as well as whether or not HER2 is present. If you'd like to get more information about personalized treatment paths, including the different therapies that are available that might be appropriate for your situation, tailored to your tumor biology and health profile, you can get a Yerba report which breaks down chemotherapy regimens, endocrine treatments, and other combinations, and provides specific information that may be appropriate for your case. And you also have an opportunity to interact with Yerba's medical experts directly for evidence-based answers about your options, recurrence risk, or side effects from the therapy you have by going to yerba.com. So in patients that have ER, or otherwise referred to as estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, we think of those patients as having endocrine sensitive disease because the estrogen can stimulate the estrogen receptor on a tumor cell and cause it to grow. So a lot of the focus over many decades has been how do we interfere with that pathway by using drugs that affect ER positive breast cancer. And I will tell you that in the last several years, after a long period of time where not a whole lot was going on with respect to new drugs in estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, there are innumerable drugs that are now being developed, including SERDs, which we are viewing as the next major class of drugs that are focused on patients with ER positive breast cancer. And the attractive thing about these drugs is that they're all oral. The other thing is that many of these drugs are now being combined with targeted therapy. And we've talked about CD4/6 inhibitors in the past, mTOR inhibitors in the past, as well as other drugs that affect what we call the PI3 kinase AKT-mTOR pathway. So those initials all stand for particular nodes in a signaling pathway inside the tumor cell. And if you think about it sort of as a circuit board, if you can somehow interfere with that path, you can potentially shut off the signals that cause the tumor cell to grow. So not only new anti-hormone therapies directly, but partnering them with other drugs can more effectively, or at least potentially, affect the cancer cell in an adverse way, which is good for you as a patient. We're trying to shut down the growth and the stimulation of those cells. So in the trial that I was mentioning, this is targeting what we call the PI3 kinase pathway. And it has to be kept in mind that in patients that have breast cancer who are hormone receptor positive, about 40% of patients will have what we call a PI3 kinase mutation. And again, if you think of that as a pathway, there's PI3 kinase followed by AKT followed by mTOR. So each is a step in the signaling pathway. And there is the potential to not only interfere with one of those nodes, but possibly more than them. And again, PI3 kinase, there's many different subsets of it. We call that isoforms. And there's mTOR1, there's mTOR2. And there are actually drugs that have been developed that can potentially affect all of those pathways at the same time. And one such drug is called Gedatolisib. And this is a medication given IV. About 6 months ago now, we heard the first part of the results from what is called the Victoria-1 trial. And in the Victoria-1 trial, study 1 that was presented previously, we found that patients who had PI3 kinase normal status responded very well to this drug. And how the study was designed was patients either got the standard fulvestrant alone after they had already progressed on a prior endocrine treatment, or they got Gedatolisib plus fulvestrant, so a doublet, 2 drugs, or a triplet, which was Gedatolisib, fulvestrant, and a CD4/6 inhibitor. And that trial in patients who had a PI3 kinase normal status showed that getting gedatolisib markedly improved the time until the disease progressed. So what we call progression-free survival improved, and the triplet was even better than the doublet, and fulvestrant on its own had a very poor ability to keep the disease stable. So I think that that study, which was the first one, was very encouraging, and this drug has a sort of fast track with the FDA. But there was also a second study that was part of Victoria 1. Same thing, ER-positive patients with metastatic disease, but in this case, patients who had a PI3 kinase mutation. And the comparator here was either fulvestrant plus alpelisib or fulvestrant plus gedatolisib, or the triplet again, fulvestrant, gedatolisib plus palbociclib. And in this experience, again, there was a clear demonstration that by getting gedatolisib, you markedly improved the PFS. And it was both clinically meaningful and statistically significant. The doublet and the triplet seemed to perform about the same, but the number of patients who had shrinkage of their disease, what we call the response rate, was greater with the triplet. Now, the other aspect of all of these things is whenever you talk about a therapy, you also have to think about what the side effects are. And one of the downsides to prior therapies that target that pathway is alpelisib. And alpelisib can cause a lot of problems with glucose control, so your sugars can get out of control, they can become elevated. Patients can get GI symptoms like diarrhea or stomatitis, which are sores in the mouth. And what we found with using gedatolisib as opposed to the older therapy is some of those side effects are still present, but they're markedly less than what we were seeing with the old therapy. So there's much less glucose control problems. There is still stomatitis. Patients have to be cautioned about that, and they have to understand what the maneuvers are to diminish that or prevent that as they start the therapy. But by and large, this looks to be an effective drug. It looks to be something that can be managed well, and we hope and anticipate that it will be approved in the near future. So in summary, what I tried to convey to you in this video is that we can anticipate a new drug coming along in the very near future, and that's gedatolisib, which will be combined with other anti-hormone therapy to hopefully be an option for you as a patient. We learned that in comparison to old standards that we had, that this particular drug in combination with endocrine therapy markedly improved the time until the disease progressed. It also had a higher response rate, meaning the fraction of patients who had demonstrable shrinkage of their tumor on scans. And equally important, the side effect profile of this drug in combination with its partners was better tolerated than the old options. So this has been submitted to the FDA, and our hope as clinicians and you as patients is that we'll have another option available for you in the future. I want to thank you for watching this Yerba video, and if you have other topics that you're interested in, we hope you subscribe. Go to yerba.com, and we look forward to speaking to you again in the future. Thank you.